so wonderful to see all of you this morning. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. It's a lovely, lovely group. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here today. And as you know, I'm First Lady Pat Nixon. And I thought that I would tell you a little bit about my life, actually when I was your age and I was growing up, and then some time in the White House, and then at the end, I'll open it up for questions. So if you're ready, I'm going to start at the very beginning of where I was born. I was born in a very small town called Ely, E-L-Y, Nevada. Has anybody in this room been to Ely, Nevada? Oh my golly! Oh, you can tell me what it's like now. I haven't been back for a while, but I was born in Ely, Nevada, and I was born March 16th, very close to midnight. And if you know what March 17th is, what is March 17th? Anybody know? Exactly, it's St. Patrick's Day. So my father, whose name was Will, he wanted to call me his St. Patrick's babe in the morning. But my dad, my mom, whose name was Kate, she wanted to name me Thelma Catherine Ryan. Well, guess who won out? My mom did it first, so I was called Thelma. I joined my two brothers. Anybody here have brothers? Good. Oh my goodness, we have a whole room full of brothers here. Great. I joined my two brothers, Bill and Tom, and my dad got very tired of mining. He was working in a copper mine. He got very, very tired of it, and he wanted to try something different. He wanted to try farming. Anybody here grow things? Plant things? Good for you, growing and planting things. So he moved our family, he moved my mom and my two brothers and me to a city right nearby here called Artesia, where he actually started a farm. And my dad was so great at farming. He grew not only tomatoes and eggplants and corn, but he also grew the biggest cabbages that you've ever seen in your whole life. And when I was little, those cabbages looked even bigger. People came from all over to see my dad's cabbages. He was famous. And the fun thing about it, when I was little, when I was your age, I had my own little space to grow fruits and vegetables along with my two brothers. In our house, we did not have any indoor electricity, so we didn't have any lights inside, and we didn't have any plumbing inside. Life was fun, but it was hard. I got up in the morning, as I said, I was your age. I got up in the morning and I had chores to do. I helped my mom clean the house, helped her cook, helped her iron, and helped her do all kinds of things. Well, anybody been to Excelsior High School? Anybody know where Excelsior? Oh my goodness, good. This is a great group. You know where Ely, Nevada, you know where Artesia, you know where Excelsior High School is. Well, I was a freshman in the 9th grade at Excelsior High School, and I was 13 years old, and my mother started getting very, very tired and very sick. And we said, Mom, you need to go to the doctor. But you know how moms are. Oh, I'll get better tomorrow, I'll feel better tomorrow. So my mom didn't go to the doctor. When she finally went to the doctor said, you have Bright's disease. Anybody know what that is? Good, what is it? Really, really, exactly. It's a kidney disease. Thank you for that. It's a kidney disease, and she took some medicine. We thought for sure she was going to get better. I was 13 years old. She didn't get better, and she died when I was 13. It was very, very sad because I was very close to my mother, and so I took over all the chores of the house and helped my dad, not only with his garden and his planting and his farming, but I also was doing all the chores in the house too, and before I went to school. I loved school, loved it. Do anybody here love school? How many of you love school? Oh, I'm so excited that you love school. I do too. It was great. And in school, I did my studies, but I also was involved in doing some theater performances. Has anybody been in plays or acting? Good for you. Oh my goodness, this is a fantastic group. What school are you from? Oh, good for you. That's awesome. Well, I did some plays in school, and I loved acting. So it was very, very fun. When I was a senior at Excelsior High School, my dad started coughing a lot, and he got sick. And we said, Dad, you need to go to the doctor. But you know how dads are. Oh, I'll feel better in the morning, nothing's wrong with me. Well, he kept getting weaker and weaker and weaker. He went to the doctor, and they diagnosed him with tuberculosis. You all know what tuberculosis is. Yes. Well, it's contagious as well, so thank you for that. Yes, so he took some medicine. I helped him a lot. I had to boil things. I had to clean things extra clean. But when I was 17 years old, my dad died. So my mom died when I was 13. I know, it was very sad. And my dad died when I was 17. So we had hardly any money at all. But we had a lot of family unity. And we knew, all three of us, remember my two brothers, Tom and Bill, we all knew that we wanted to go to school. We wanted to continue on. So my oldest brother went on to school, and I helped my other brother still with the farm and doing all those things in Artesia. But I knew, just like you all love school, I knew that I wanted to go on to school. And so I did all kinds of jobs. I worked in a bank. I even drove a couple who had driven here from the East Coast. I went with them back in their car. And I liked the East Coast. Has anybody been to New York or New Jersey here? For you. I liked it so much that I decided to stay there for 2 years. My aunt, my mother's sister, was a nun. Imagine that. And she worked in an x-ray lab in a hospital, and I was there for 2 years doing all kinds of jobs to save enough money so that I could come back to Southern California and go on to college. Well, I did. And I enrolled in Fullerton Junior College. Anybody know where Fullerton Junior College is? You're such a great group here. You know, Bright's disease, Ely, Nevada, all kinds of things. So I went to Fullerton Junior College, and then I saved all the money when I was doing the jobs to be able to get a scholarship and to go on to the University of Southern California. You can stand up if you went to the University of Southern California. Yay, Trojans! All right, yes. So when I was at University of Southern California, I majored in merchandising, which was selling things. Anybody here sell things? Even have a lemonade stand, whatever you can sell, good. So I majored in merchandising, but I knew that I wanted to be a teacher because I love students so much. So I majored in merchandising, and then I got a teaching credential, and I applied for a job at a high school right near here, and it's called Whittier High School. I was accepted, and I became a teacher there. I loved it. I taught typing, I taught shorthand, I taught filing, and I taught English. I was a strict teacher. I wanted my students to come to school ready, prepared, but I also wanted them to have a good time in my class. So I told them that I would be strict, but that's because I really cared about them so much. And so I enjoyed my students, and they enjoyed me, and I didn't take myself that seriously, but I took what I was doing very seriously. Well, one day the school principal came to me, and by that time I had changed my name from Thelma to Pat in honor of my father. So the school principal came to me one day and he said, Pat, he said, I'd really like you to get involved in after-school activities. So you think of something. We have a fantastic football team at Whittier High School. How about you do something to do like the spirit of the football team, or maybe be a cheerleader, or have some rah-rah things? And I said, this sounds really fun. So a group of our teachers got together, and after school, we joined the football team, having cheers and celebrating them and being the spirit group for the football team. It was fun. Then another day, the school principal came to me and he said, Pat, I'd like you to go volunteer. How many of you volunteer in this room? If I ask you at the end, all of you who volunteer to stand up, I think probably the whole room would, the whole room. He said, I'd like you to volunteer in the community. I understand that you've done some plays in high school, and there's a play, and I'd like you to go volunteer. Go audition for the play. See if you can get a part. I thought, this is going to be fun. So I auditioned for the play. It was a murder mystery. It was very, very sinister. It was called The Dark Tower, and I got the part. And then a very nice-looking young man who had graduated from Duke Law School had come back to practice law in Yorba Linda in Whittier. He actually came and auditioned for the play as well. And the first night I met him, he introduced himself. He said, "Hello, I'm Richard Milhouse Nixon." And I said, "Well, I'm Patricia Ryan." And I thought he was a very interesting person. He talked about wanting to go places, faraway places, and do things for his country and his community. Well, one night he asked me out for coffee, and he looked me straight in the eye, and he said, "You may not know this, but someday I'm going to marry you." That's the first time that he asked me out, and I thought to myself, good luck. I don't even know you. I have no idea where I'm going with you at all. Has that ever happened to anybody here, that somebody has said, "Oh, you may not know this, but I'm going to marry you"? It was wonderful. Well, we went out for 2 years, and I found myself really falling in love with him. And he asked me to marry him, and I said yes. And we were married in Riverside at the Mission on June 21st, 1940. I have to tell you something really fun. I don't know if this has ever happened to you before. Have you ever gone on a camping trip and you've taken a lot of canned things, but somebody tricked you and they took all the labels off of all the cans, so you had no idea what was inside those cans? Well, when we went on our honeymoon, one of our friends, we packed a lot of canned goods in the car. They took all the labels off our cans. It was fun. It was very fun. When we came back from our honeymoon in Mexico, my husband, who I called Dick, obviously, was practicing law in Whittier, and I remained teaching. In 1946, an opportunity came up for my husband to possibly consider running for Congress. We talked about it. "Dick, how do you feel?" You know, he wanted to serve his country. He loved his country so much, and he wanted to do something. And so we talked about it. We said, "You know, I think you should run for Congress." And he did, and he won. Yay! And our first daughter, Tricia, was born that same year. It was very exciting. In 1948, our second daughter, Julie, was born. In 1950, because he'd done such a great job as a congressman, there was an opportunity for him to run for the Senate. He ran for that, and guess what? You think he won or lost? He won. Good for you. You're smart. He won for Senate as well. And then in 1952, he became vice president. And in 1968, guess what? He became, very good, you're very smart. He became president of the United States, the 37th, I know, wasn't that exciting? I wish you could see his face, it's just adorable. That's great. I was very excited too. I was very, very excited. So he became the 37th president of the United States, and he was elected, but I became First Lady. What does the First Lady do? Well, the First Lady serves as a role model for the people of the country. I also planned all the activities. I planned the state dinners. I worked with the people who were coming to the White House, and it was just wonderful being First Lady. In this room, in the East Room of the White House, we had a lot of big celebrations. But when the room could not accommodate the number of people that we could have in the East Room, we actually went on the road, literally, if you will. And we would go to big venues to celebrate extremely important events. And in 1969, we went to the Century Plaza Hotel in Los Angeles because a huge event had occurred. Anybody know the names of the 3 astronauts that came from the Apollo 11? No. You, you know so many other things. So I see you volunteer, you know farming, you have brothers and sisters, you've been in your plays. Yes, anybody know the name of the 3 astronauts? No. Anybody? Yes. Will you stand up? We should, yes, we should. You're absolutely right, and it's written in the books, but thank you for saying that, and thank you for knowing that. Yes, so they had come back from the moon in July, And in 1969, and in August, we had a big, huge celebration in a hotel. You can imagine, here are the astronauts, first time on the moon, and they had come back from the moon safely. So we had a tremendous event. The governors from most of the states in the United States were there. We had ambassadors from all over the world. It was a wonderful, wonderful celebration and a very wonderful night to remember. So those are some of the things I did as First Lady, but my projects, I wanted to have a project. And if you remember what Lady Bird Johnson had done, she was very instrumental in beautifying the gardens of the United States. And I love people. I just love people. I would love to know all about you, where you're from, what you like to do. So people are my project. And I wanted to promote, probably because of my wonderful principle, I wanted to promote volunteerism. Anybody can be a volunteer. If you look at the wonderful ladies who are dressed in the red jackets here, they have their hours that they're volunteering here at the library. How many of you in this room, I asked already how many of you volunteer, and I don't think anybody would not stand up, because anybody can volunteer. So it was something very easy to promote. And I wanted them to get involved in their cities, their communities, their schools, their hospitals, their libraries. I also wanted to develop the parks and recreation. I love parks, and I love to have a good time. And there's a great way to do that when you go to the parks. Some of the other things too were in this room, the East Room, we had wonderful, wonderful events. We had a great preacher whose name is Billy Graham. Thank you, Billy Graham. He gave Sunday services here at the White House. We also had Duke Ellington. I love music. How many of you like music? How many of you play an instrument? Awesome. I love the hands. Love the hands. Yes. So I love music, and we had a lot of events here. We had Sammy Davis Jr., we had Frank Sinatra, we had, anybody dance here? Ballet, tap, jazz? Yes, we had so many of those events here in this room as well. Also, I wanted to continue the legacy of Jacqueline Kennedy. She was able to secure many of the antiques back to the White House. And so I worked with a wonderful man named Clement Conger, and we were able to bring back 500 antiques to the White House. Everything from beautiful paintings, to chandeliers, to carpets, to Dolly Madison's writing desk, to President Adams' settee. That was something I greatly enjoyed. One of the things too, I would like to ask anybody in this room been involved or served our country in the service, in the military service. Would you please stand up? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A big salute to you, a big salute to you. I was so astounded. I went on an open-air helicopter in Saigon to see actually the fighting in Vietnam. And I admire the troops so much and the people who have served our country and sacrificed their lives to keep our country free. So God bless you. Thank you so much. It's an honor for me to see you today. So we actually welcomed the prisoners of war back from Vietnam and had a star-studded evening at the White House. We had music, we had food, we invited all the POWs and their families and their wives and their friends to the White House. And Irving Berlin, who was a great musician, had a band that played until probably 3 o'clock in the morning. It was absolutely wonderful. Some of the other things that hadn't been done in the White House, people with special needs, people who needed to get into the White House by ramps. There had been no ramps installed. And so I wanted to make that accessible for people who had disabilities, who had abilities, but needed some extra help. So we installed the ramps. I also wanted to have a tour for the blind so that they could actually come to the White House and feel the curtains and run their fingers along the furniture. How many of you in here are a Girl Scout? Good for you. That is wonderful. I love the Girl Scouts. I think you're so interesting. You do so many community service events and so many projects. So I wanted to bring all the Girl Scouts to the White House. I also had, when I was little, my parents used to hide eggs in the backyard. And I thought, gosh, the White House has a huge, huge lawn. So we hid eggs at the White House and had the first Easter egg hunt at the White House. It was wonderful. Excuse me. And very, very fun. And then one of the unforgettable events of the White House was our firstborn daughter, Tricia, wanted to get married at the White House. She wanted to get married in June. June is pretty hot, isn't it? Hardly ever rains, right? Well, on the morning of her wedding, on June 12th, I opened the window in my room, and guess what I saw? Rain. Can you imagine? Have you ever thought that you were seeing something when you really didn't see it? So I closed the curtains, I opened again, and I thought, it's rain, but maybe I'm not really seeing it because I'm kind of tired. But it was raining, and the wedding was scheduled to be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So what did we do? All the chairs were set outside. As you can see, the gazebo was outside. It was still raining. So my staff, I had a wonderful staff. The two women knocked on the door at about 10 o'clock, and they said, Mrs. Nixon, it's raining. And I said, yes, it's raining. It must be a sign of very, very good luck because it's raining. But basically, they wanted to know, what are we going to do? Because all the seats were outside. I said, 4-letter word, pray. That's all we can do. We had heard the day before that it was going to be overcast, but we didn't hear it was going to be rain. So we all got in a circle, and we said some prayers. Dear Lord, it's up to you, right? It is a wedding, and if you can kind of just like move the clouds and move the rain at about 4 o'clock, we'd be so happy. And we always had a sense of humor. We couldn't take that seriously. I mean, what are we going to do? So at 3:30, I was dressed. We had people coming from all over the United States to the wedding. At 3:45, guess what happened? It stopped raining for a while. At 4 o'clock, you walk down the aisle, no rain, about a 15-minute, 20-minute service, and at the end of the service, the clouds started forming again. So we got super, super, super lucky. Yes. When I'm not doing very official things in the White House, how many of you like to read? Oh, good. You're such a wonderful group. I have to get to know your teachers, too. I love to read. I like to read good mysteries, P.D. James, Earl Stanley Gardner, Burroughs Buck. I love to read. I also, again, love to garden. Probably going back to my days in Artesia on the farm, so if I can ever get my hands into the wonderful soil and plant things, I love to garden. I also like to just take a walk. It's great. And I have been so blessed. They were so nice to cut these. This is a rose that has been named after me. It's called the Pat Nixon Rose. Isn't it beautiful? And afterwards you can come up and it has a wonderful fragrance too. I also get about 1,000 letters a week that are sent to me, and I spend about 3 to 4 hours a day actually answering the letters of the people who have been kind enough to write. They ask me everything from, what's the name of your, anybody have a dog here? Okay. They ask me, what's the name of your dog? What kind of dog food do you feed your dog? They ask me how I pack my things for going on all these trips. They ask me how I help my children with their homework. They ask me how I can be First Lady and still do all the things that I'm supposed to do. They even, how many of you here cook, like to cook? They even ask me for my favorite recipes and what my favorite food is. So I enjoy very much writing back because I'm able to keep a pulse on what the people of the country are thinking and actually to connect with them. As you know from what I told you before, I love to travel. I went with that couple across the country, and I had the wonderful opportunity to travel to Ghana, Liberia. Anybody know where those countries are? Ghana, Liberia, and the Gold Coast? It's far, far away, far. Starts with an A. It's a big continent. You're pretty close. Africa, very good, very good. Africa, yes. On the west coast of Africa I went. It was a 10,000-mile trip, and I got to see the inauguration of the president of Liberia. I don't know whether you have ever been to a place where you have had so much fun and the people have come and they've danced and they've actually taken your hand and say, come on up here and dance with me. It was so much fun. They put wonderful colored things around my head and around my skirt. They played music. They beat the drum, and it was so joyful. It was absolutely wonderful. That was a great trip. Well, when I got back from the trip, we were at Camp David, which is a place very near the White House where I can go and just completely relax. We'd actually eat a pizza, watch TV. They even had a bowling alley. Anybody bowl here? You are the most extraordinary group. You're just amazing. Yeah, so we did all those things. Well, one night my family had come. It was our anniversary, my husband and I anniversary. And I turned on the television at the end of the evening. I saw the most awful thing you can imagine. There was a huge, huge earthquake in South America, in a country called Peru. Anybody been to Peru? Anybody? Wow, good for you. This is the most traveled, the most educated, you know, the names of the astronauts. Thank you very much. Yeah, so Peru. 22,000 feet above sea level, there was the most horrible, horrible earthquake. 50,000 people died, and 800,000 people lost their homes. And my husband was very, very busy with a lot of commitments from people coming from all over the country to see him for meetings. But he said to me, he said, Pat, if you go, I will fill 2 Air Force One planes with 91 tons of equipment for you to take to the poor people, the poor and suffering people of Lima, Peru. I said, I'm going. So I went, and we were able to get to that 22,000 feet above sea level and give those flashlights and blankets and food and medical equipment to the people of the country. It was very, very devastating, but it was very rewarding as well. So those were some of the things that I really enjoyed doing. I love to travel, as I said, and I love to get to know the people of the country. I have really enjoyed being with you so much today. I love teaching. I love my family. I love my husband. I love my country. And I love all of you for being here today. Somebody said something very nice about me that I'll share with you. They said, even though I couldn't speak their language, they could really see that I had love in my heart for them. So today, I have so much love in my heart for all of you. As you can see, I am an ordinary person, a very ordinary person, but I've had extraordinary opportunities. I want to thank you so much for being here today. I'll never forget you. I wish you all well. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Super job.
Thank you.
Super job. Let's thank the First Lady.
Thank you.
Now I tell you what we're going to do. She's agreed to take some questions from the audience. So do we have any questions from anyone? How about the youngsters down here? You guys have any questions? Someone have any? There's a question.
Hi, my name's Fabi from Yorba Linda. I would like to know what was your favorite experience, not just in your travels, but in the White House itself, as far as maybe staff or some of the functions you held there, or some of the rooms that were your favorite?
Great question. Oh my goodness. There were so many. I think just being with the people, I think being with the Girl Scouts, the ordinary people who came to the White House, because I was able to find out so much about their lives, what they were doing, what they were involved in, and that to me meant more in a way than meeting with, we had a lot of celebrities come, as you know. But I think it was just wonderful being able to just meet the wonderful people who had just come to, you know, if they participated in a park or a Girl Scout or something like that too. I completely overlooked my trip to China. As you probably saw, Jonathan Mavroides, I'd like to give him a huge hand. He's the Director of Communications. I think probably an answer to that, but just meeting with the general people was just so near and dear to my heart. But probably the most unforgettable experience I had in the entire White House was in 1972 when we went to China. And as you know, no foreigners had been to China since 1949. And Chow En-lai was extremely stern and hardly even smiled. But one day when my husband was at many, many meetings with him, I went to see acupuncture, I went to the zoo, I went to see the children sing, and I just went about the country. And when I came back that night, Chow En-lai had asked me, my experience of the day. And I was smiling and giggling because these pandas were adorable. They were so cute. And so I said, I think I even hit my thigh. And I said, you just can't believe these adorable pandas. He had a translator who was phenomenal. She spoke English flawlessly. So she hit her leg too, and she said, Mrs. Nixon loved these pandas and just had such a great time at the zoo. Well, he started laughing, and we started laughing. Everybody started laughing. And he looked at me and he said, would you like those pandas? And I thought to myself, pandas for the White House? That's going to be really, really incredible. He said, no, we can get those pandas to you. And I thought, yeah, sure you can. That's going to be really a trick. But he did. He gave us 2 pandas for the Washington Zoo. And in exchange, we sent him 2 oxen. So that's a follow-up on your question. Yes. Thank you for that question.
I'm Emily, and I'm 7 years old, and I want to know what's your favorite book.
My favorite book. Oh my goodness. Let me ask you what your favorite book is.
I think it's Judy Moody. It's one of the Judy Moody books.
The
Judy Moody.
Judy Moody books. That's a whole series. Yes, it's wonderful. I like series books as well. I enjoyed reading Little House on the Prairie books to my children, and for me personally, I like mysteries. It'd be very, very hard for me to pick one of my favorites. I also like history. Probably one of my favorite people in history would be, I loved Martha Washington. I thought she was a great woman. Lots of lessons to be learned from her. Thank you for the question.
If I could interrupt, my favorite book is Pat Nixon, The Untold Story, written by Julia Nixon Eisenhower. It's available in a museum store for sale. Next question.
My name's Natasha. I want to ask you, what's your favorite country you've been to?
My favorite country I've been to probably would have had to have been China. Have you ever been to China? Anybody in this room been to China? Oh, you traveled, my heavens. Travel people, yes. So probably China because it's so incredibly different. Incredibly different. If you ever have the opportunity to go to China or to travel, I encourage you. Yes. And also because of the pandas, too. How old are you? 8. And so you're in the 3rd grade? Good. Yes.
My name is Arnold. I'm 8 years old, and what's your favorite color?
Exactly what I have on. My favorite color is turquoise. My favorite color. I would like to stop for just a moment and find out the names of your teachers. Would your teachers of this class please stand up? All the teachers and all the aides, the assistants, the parents. I would like to give you a huge applause. Huge. The reason that I'd like to give you a huge applause is because I can see that this is 3rd grade. And you did not squirm, you did not wiggle, you did not tease each other, you did not look at the ground. You were so interested, and I just want to really applaud all of you. You did a fantastic job, and it comes from the teachers. Great job. Great job. Yes.
I'm Tiffany. I'm 8, and I was wondering what your favorite subject is.
My favorite?
In school.
My favorite?
Subject in school is.
My favorite subject in school, oh my goodness. I love history. I loved history. I didn't teach history because at that particular time, I was teaching, it would be now computer skills. Typing and filing in shorthand, which is something that, typing and filing in shorthand, anybody? Business English, business, filing? Yes.
brothers die?
How did my brother die? Very good question. My brother died, actually he lived to be quite old, and he died just a normal death. Good question. Bill and Tom, yes.
Do we have any other questions? Oh.
My name is Jacob, and I was wondering, how did you and Mr. Nixon determine to travel with all the business he had to do?
Are you in the 3rd grade? No. What grade are you in? I was going to say you couldn't be in the 3rd grade. What a very excellent question, and how well you communicate. My goodness. How did we determine who was going to travel? That's an excellent, excellent question. Thank you for that question. When he had a lot of business, and he really needed to be where he needed to be, he would say, because I love to travel, and I welcomed the opportunity. So he would say to me, Pat, would you go to Africa? Pat, would you go to Peru? And you know, my bag was packed, and I was ready to go because I really love traveling. Thank you for that. Have you traveled a lot? Not yet. Well, you're how old? 12? 13? You're turning 12. When's your birthday? November 30th. You're a wonderful young man. For you, what are you interested most in? You see, I love people so much, so you get me started. I'll ask everybody in this room to tell me about yourself. Okay. Your favorite subject is? Jake? Not yet. It's good that you like them all. I did too. Yes. Question?
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions. The next one's right here.
My name is Terry from Yorba Linda, and I really admire your faith and your passion for people. Did you share your faith with your husband? Was he as much, you were so prayerful about your daughter's wedding. Was he as strong, or was that something more personal just in your life?
My husband was extremely, extremely spiritual, and we prayed together often, very often, almost, in fact, daily. Thank you for that question. Yes. Yes. He had a strong faith. You know, he was a Quaker, grew up in the Quaker faith, and Bible reading was part of his life, and also service and spirituality. Yes. Yes.
Okay, we'll take our last question, but before we go ahead with it, I want to pitch you guys on membership. It's the reason we can do these events. We've done 6 of them, they're all free, and the membership is as cheap as $50, and it goes up to $5,000. If you want to donate more, you're more than welcome to. But up in the front lobby, we have the very beautiful Elizabeth, and she's our director of membership. She'll take care of you guys. Please stop by and just check it out. Here's our last question. And what we'll do after this is we'll line up to my right, and everyone will be allowed to take photos with the First Lady. Then we have punch and cookies and coloring in the back there for the kids. Punch and cookies, maybe we could let the kids get them first and then the adults. That would be good. But here's our last question.
My name is Cholet, and what's your favorite aquatic animal?
My favorite?
Aquatic animal.
Aquatic animal. Aquatic animal. My favorite aquatic animal. Probably I like the whales just because they're the biggest, and one of my daughters was doing a report on whales in school, and I got so informed about them. I realized that they're absolutely huge, that they're mammals, that they give birth to their babies live, and it was just astounding. So probably the whale. How about for you? I don't know yet. That's okay. There's so many of them. It's hard to choose.
Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's.
I got a mic. That's right. I would like so much to thank the Nixon Library. I'd like to really thank Sandy Quinn, who's the director, who couldn't be here this morning. I'd like to thank Chris. I'd like to thank the volunteers, Jonathan. I mean, I do not just do this, just walk in and do this. I have a lot of help, and I would like to thank all of you so much for being here today. And please come back. This library is absolutely fantastic, if I may say so. So it's great to be here, and thank you. What if I came and there was nobody here? So I thank you very much for coming. God bless you.